So before we get started in today's lesson, we're going to go over the warm-up. Can you guys give me two numbers that multiply to 56? 28 and 2? Perfect. Okay. And then, good, 2 and 14. And then, good. Okay. So we simplified those numbers. If you find it difficult to come up with numbers like 8 and 7, if it's an even number like 56, it can always be divided by 2. So it can be 2 and something else. Same with 28. 2 and something else, okay? So if you ever get stuck on trying to find two numbers, maybe try 2 if it's even, okay? All right, so we're going to rewrite this as, we have a -2 on the outside. And then I'm going to rewrite 56 as 2 times 2 times 2 times 7. Okay, now I'm going to circle my pairs. Here is a pair of 2s. I'm going to cross it out and put one of them outside. We're going to multiply the outside numbers. So this will become -4. On the inside, we have 2 times 7, which is 14. So this is my final answer. Do we have a negative on the inside? So guys, let's say if we did have a negative on the inside, then we would have an I in our answer. But since we do not have a negative on the inside, we will not have an I. Okay, very good question. All right, so now that we did the warm-up, let's go ahead and go to the notes. So flip over to the notes page. Today, we're going to be learning how to add and subtract complex numbers. And remember, a complex number is just a number that has an I in it. And this is the standard form of a complex number. This is the real part, and this is the imaginary part. Imaginary. Okay. So, for example, you might see something like this, 3 plus 4i. This is the real part. This is the imaginary part. These are called complex numbers, okay? So we're going to add and subtract them. So you have to combine like terms, okay? So let's look at example number 1. This is an I and this is a 6i. Together, what will they be? 7i. Just think of this as one I, okay? So 1i plus 6 i's are 7 i's, or is 7 i's. Okay, number 2. I'm just going to get rid of these parentheses. This is just 3i plus 5 minus 6i. Okay, let's write it without the distraction of parentheses. Okay, whenever it's a plus sign, so if you have an addition sign, whatever is inside of the parentheses will stay exactly the same when it's a plus sign, okay? So anyways, let's start combining like terms. So I have 3i minus 6i. What will that be? Yep, -3i. So this will be -3i, and there's nothing to combine with the 5. So this will just come down. That's your answer. Now, remember when we said if it's a plus sign, your numbers just stay exactly the same? Well, if it's a minus sign, it's going to change. This 4 will become a -4. This 5i will become a -5i because we're subtracting, okay? So whenever you have a subtraction sign, whatever is inside of the parentheses, the sign will change, okay? Because this negative goes to the 4, and this negative also goes to the 5i. We'll bring down the -2i. So this is our problem with no parentheses. Okay, so let's combine like terms. I have -2i minus 5i. What will that be? Yep, -7i. And then there's just a -4 in the front. So that's my answer. Yes, the I will always go last. This is the standard form. So they want the real number first, and then they want the imaginary part second. Good question. Now, If it's an open response question on the test and you put -7i minus 4, I'm not going to count it wrong. Those are the same thing. But if it's a multiple choice, you won't see it like this. You'll see it like this. Okay? All right, let's go do some more examples. So next example, we're going to be incorporating what we learned yesterday. So guys, what is the square root of 4, 2, and I have a negative inside. So what will I write? I. And don't forget about this negative in the front. So that's my first one. Now I'm going to add, what's the square root of 25? 5, and because you have a negative, you're going to write I. Minus, what is the square root of 64? 8. Now, if there was a negative inside, I would put an I, but there's not a negative inside, so it's just 8. All right, now we're going to combine the numbers, combine like terms. So -8 will just be by itself. And then -2i plus 5i, 3i. So plus 3i. That's your answer. Number 5. What is the square root of 16? 4. So this will be 4 plus 3i. Now remember, when we're subtracting with parentheses, what happens to these numbers? Yes, it'll change the sign. I need you guys to write that down again. When it's a subtraction, these signs will change. Signs change because I'm subtracting everything. This is going to be a negative with a negative. Now this is going to be +2. The sign changes. A negative with a -7i is going to be a +7i. So whenever you have a subtraction symbol in front of parentheses, the signs will change, okay? Now let's combine like terms. This is 4 plus 2. That will be 6. This is 3i plus 7i. That is 10i. And that's my answer. Okay, now I'm going to give you guys the challenge question. I'm going to give you guys some time to do this one on your own, and then we're going to come back as a group. Okay, so take the time now to try it. Okay, so check your work. We have -5 in the front. Plus, what is the square root of 49? 7, and we have a negative inside, so I need an I. Now, I have a subtraction sign in front of my parentheses. So what happens to the stuff inside? Yes, it'll be a -6 and a -2i. The signs will change because this negative will go to both. I have another negative in front of my parentheses. So what happens? -4, because this will become a -4, and a negative is a +2. So the sign changed. Now, guys, what's the square root of -9? 3. And then I need an I because of the negative. Okay, so what's 2 times 3? Okay, so this becomes 6i. This will become 6i. All right, now let's combine like terms. So I'm going to do the real numbers. So I have -5, -6, -4. And if you want to, you can also use a calculator. Yes, it will be -15. When all your numbers have the same sign, just add them all together and keep the sign. So 5 plus 6 plus 4 is 15, and they're all negative, so it'll just be -15. Okay, now let's do the next part. Maybe. So we have 7i minus 2i. What's 7 minus 2? 5. And then plus 6 more. 11. So yes, 11i. Perfect. So that is your answer. So we did the challenge question. I'm gonna have you guys do a little bit more practice. Okay, so this is a question on your practice number 17. So I'm gonna get rid of all the parentheses. So this will stay the same, -1 plus 6i. If it's a plus sign, if it's adding, then this will stay the same. Okay, so this will be a +5 and a -2i. Those signs do not change. However, if it is a subtraction, the signs inside will change. So this will be a minus square root of -64. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and solve this. The square root of 64 is what? 8. And because we have a minus or a negative sign under the radical, I will have the letter I. And now I'm going to bring everything else down. Here's a minus here. Everything will just come down. Okay. Now I'm going to combine the real numbers. So that's -1 plus 5. The signs are different, so we need to subtract. 5 minus 1 is 4. And the bigger number is 5, so I'm going to keep the sign positive. And now I'm going to do my imaginary numbers. I have 6i minus 2i, which is 4, minus 8. So this will be -4i. 6 minus 2 minus 8 is -4i. So this is my final answer. So just to clarify, this minus sign came with this. So that's why I have a subtract this right here. All right.